The understanding of just as a kid growing up that it's hard for women to get along and be friends. Have y'all experienced that just outside of your union, right?
Yeah.
It seems like it's hard for women to stay friends together. You've experienced that?
I would say I've experienced it, and I would say that I've seen it. But I think like when you find your tribe and find like women who think that the way you think, and really it's a confidence thing. I think a lot of times women can't stay friends because there's an underlining competition, underlining energy where I can't support you and you support me back and there's no competition. And I've seen it. I've been a part of it. So I think with this particular group of friends, it's like, yo, we really, really root for each other and we're all confident. Like you can't not be confident and be a part of this group.
Yeah.
Like B's a brand. She got her own thing going on. Brie Renee is beautiful.
And we're gonna hype you up and gas you up.
Yeah. It's like you can't sit over here if you're not confident.
That too. And I think it's hard because a lot of people don't know how to be a friend. So you can't have friends or you have trouble keeping friends because you don't know how to be a friend.
Yeah.
And if you know how to be a friend, like you said, you find people that you resonate with. It's easy because you know what you wouldn't do to them. And y'all have the same level of standard when it comes to friendship.
For sure. Can you explain? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was also going to say, we talked about this in the car, which we talk about on my podcast, Know For Sure podcast, drops every Tuesday. We talk about healing, growth, and evolution, but the importance of platonic relationships.
Yeah.
Like you would say, hey, that hurt my feelings why you do that to your romantic partner, but you wouldn't say it to your homegirl.
Yeah.
Like that's just as important to have deep conversations to be like, hey, you hurt my feelings. Or
we just had a conversation in the car.
We just had a conversation in the car. And I was like, thank you so much for telling me that. Like I will be so much more intentional. I would do that with a man I'm dating.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I do that with my female friends? You know, platonic relationships are just as important as romantic relationships.
I think a ship is a ship.
Yeah.
Like
and you need to water it though.
A friendship is the same. So it's like we're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be holding each other accountable. We're supposed to be rooting and cheering each other on, pouring into each other equally. So it to me, the only thing that's different about a romantic relationship is the added intimacy.
Yeah. Right. The sexual intimacy. Because we have intimacy. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. That sexual intimacy. Because we do like have that intimacy where I feel so full after having conversations.
Explain the intimacy, the non-sexual intimacy.
Yeah.
So there's a level, and I actually feel like y'all, that I can be more intimate with you guys than
I think so too.
I can agree to that.
I can agree to that. Than with men because I feel safer to express my feelings and my true deepest thoughts. I have a level of freedom with you guys when I'm like, hey, this is what you did that hurt me, or this is what I'm really going through, or this is my struggle with God right now. I don't feel like there are a lot of men that I can have those different range of conversations with. And for me, that's intimacy.
It's fulfilling.
I think to your question too, like we get very intimate with each other. Like intimate conversations are about spirituality, about sex, about God, about what hurts our feelings, what our desires are. And like, I don't think a lot of platonic friends, I don't think a lot of platonic friends have that conversation. And I tell you this all the time, like people be quick to call you bro or sis. I don't use that word lightly. If I call you bro or sis, it's because I really mean that. And we've had a mutual exchange and we know each other. I don't just throw that word friend around like lightly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like to be able to get to the point where you respect and realize that your health is important and be able to be comfortable being able to take off, you have to work hard enough to experience that, to say, yo, I'm working too hard. You know what I mean? It's like you can't have, like some people right now, they don't make enough to, how can I put it? To pay attention to their health right now? You know what I mean? Self-care? Like you too broke for self-care? Does that sound crazy? Does that sound crazy?
I don't know, because my life, when I didn't have no money, I was caring for myself a lot. I was relaxing. Like I didn't have nothing I was chilling. Like my jobs that was paying me a little bit of money, I wasn't about to be working, you know what I mean? Like it was chill. So I don't have that experience, but I know there are like hardworking people who are working like 2-3 jobs and they just got to make it work. But for me, it was that job that really just like, I overdid it, and the environment. So the entrepreneurship environment online I was so blown away by how this whole thing works. So here, everyone's like, self-care Sunday, self-care Monday. Don't let them people stress you out. In my old environment, it was like, are you sleeping? Why are you sleeping? You are an associate. You don't sleep. Why are you everyone worked that hard. So I didn't know my husband is always like, you don't know what normal is. This is not normal.
Yeah.
I'm like, why isn't the team? He's like, because normal people don't operate like that. Like in the real world, we don't work all night because if the environment
but you know what's crazy? We don't want to be normal people.
At all. We don't want to be normal people, but we do have to learn to work with, but the environment was not a healthy environment, but it did teach me work ethic, and thank God. Because I do think people need work ethic.
Here's the thing. I don't think there's an environment where extreme work ethic is going to be healthy. I don't think it's possible to have a healthy environment where the theme is hard work.
I hope there is. But it wasn't, and here's the thing. The people that did have balance, that would be like, hey, this is how you get balance in this work environment. They didn't have partnership. They didn't have status. They didn't have the results. They weren't seen by clients as best in class.
Yeah.
Because the people that were best in class studied all the time. They dedicated their lives to being great. And I've just always, I didn't want to be good. Like, I'm anti-good.
Yeah.
I want to do the thing that I can be world class at with continued work and dedication.
Yeah. Are you on YouTube heavy?
No.
No?
The only videos I have on YouTube are videos we run as ads.
You're the ad queen. But I'm going to ask you, just from your perspective. So I went to this class, not a class, it was a conference on like growing with video. And I realized that my thumbnails are too small.
Oh.
And I need to make a bunch of tweaks.
Okay.
But that's kind of me playing into the algorithm or the SEO on YouTube. Do you not advise that?
Oh, yeah. So I do believe in best practices, and I believe in our instincts. So if you have a marketer's...
Dang, that just sat in my spirit. You said best practices and instincts.
Yes.
Dang, that's good. And sometimes you have an instinct about something that isn't necessarily the best practice, but you just feel something. And I guess at that point determines kind of like how successful you'll be, especially if you've done enough research. Okay, so just talk to me about what I'm trying to talk to you about right now.
Yeah. Oh.
Because it's mad stuff going on through my head, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm actually looking for coaching right now.
Oh. I love it. All right, so I'm supposed to ask you a clarifying question, all that, right? So I mean, in that case with the thumbnails, what I would say is, first of all, what are the results you're getting? Because it's one thing for someone to tell you, here's a best practice, your thumbnails are too small. However, if you, as David Shands, are killing it and you're getting the click-throughs where the data says, we love your thumbnails, like this is working, then your thumbnails ain't too small.
It wasn't.
Okay.
I just learned the click-through rate thing.
Oh,
I thought we just came up with a cool title. When my guy, he made the thumbnail, I was like, ooh, that's hard. Let's do it. And I put it on there. And
you're like, ooh, where everybody at? Where the clicks at?
Yeah.
So so then you ask yourself about the litmus test. So everything has a litmus test. How do we know if this is working or not working? And you want to look at the piece of data closest to what the asset is. In this case, the asset is the thumbnail. What's the piece of data closest to it? The click-through rate. The click-through rate is what, like, people see the thumbnail, are they clicking it? So that is our litmus test. Is this working or not?
Got it.
So when you look at the CTR, if you're like, oh yeah, this ain't given, then most likely maybe the thumbnail is too small.
Gotcha. Okay. So yes, you broke that rule working SEO, but you start to understand search engine optimization there, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
And how did you take that into Instagram? Because it's not the same.
It's not. So what I'll say is I didn't necessarily take it into Instagram. It did help me with Instagram ads a little bit, but to be honest, it just gave me a healthy foundation and understanding of the architecture that is the internet. Like, where are the channels where we can get traffic, and how does the algorithm decide what to rank higher than the other thing? So it gave me at least a foundational understanding. And once you get the foundational understanding, that's a great place to be, to make up your own rules or, imagine things. So what I would say is the next step from there, it gave me the foundation to then, when I worked at Udemy, I knew about SEO. I knew about that channel of organic marketing. And so then while I was at Udemy, I worked for, my boss was brilliant. He's amazing. And I got to learn from him. And that's where I learned about data analytics. I couldn't learn SQL for the life of me though. Have you tried to learn SQL? I know. I tried to learn. I don't even know what SQL is. Like, what are you talking about? That's where my line was like, I could do a pivot table, but SQL. So that's where I learned to like track the data, because I was responsible for coaching. I essentially did what I do now. Like I would coach individuals who were launching their courses, and I would help them determine how should you brand it? How are you going to grow your audience? What should you title your course? What should you price it at? And how do you get a 10K launch, even if you don't have an audience? So because I had like the foundational knowledge, I could help advise them on these are keywords you should include in your course title so you can rank on Udemy's platform, right? Because Udemy is like an Amazon. It's a big old search engine for online courses. Oh, wow. So I could use that SEO knowledge to advise them, use these keywords because you'll rank higher, and though add your specific twist. What is your culture add? What are those few things, that one, result that you're going to add to make yourself stand out? So I was able to better advise them when I was there.
Everybody thinks agents get paid so much, but imagine walking from the closing table and you get paid 3% of $300,000, or you built the house and you get paid $200,000.
Give me an example of a good deal, and how did it come to you, and what'd you do with it?
So a great deal that came to us was when we bought the land on the tax sale. So we're building 2 properties right now.
You do tax sale deals?
I've been doing all of this for years. I just think the fabulousness, I think, sometimes overshadows the work. But me and my husband, we've been going to tax sales for 5 years.
What?
And we go south because that's where he's from. My husband's from Forsyth, Georgia. And it's easier to get deals outside of the city of Atlanta. So his high school friends and all that, they work for the city down there. So we get the list, we go through the list, and we buy land and we buy deals, or we'll buy like a trailer. But the thing is not about the trailer. It's about having the land and knowing that it already has what connected: power, a water source, things that you don't have to go in infrastructure. So you can just tear down the trailer and build up, which is what we did on one of the first properties we built. It was a trailer there, but it was easy to navigate because all the connections were already there.
Give me some numbers on this deal.
The land itself cost us $7,500 to build the property.
And where was it at?
It was in Forsyth, Georgia.
Okay.
Cost us $7,500. We got it at a tax sale, and that was the tax sale. We closed that in 2017.
Okay.
And so after we got the land, we waited like a couple years, and we started to build on it. We built on it 3 years ago. It took us about $65,000, give or take, to build the property. We sold it for $204,000.
Oh wow! Dang, you don't get none of that in Atlanta?
I can say. You can. Atlanta has deals, but when you're starting out, start small. Because now that we've started small, now I feel like I'm confident enough to do a big deal, because the cost of land costs much more, but the returns are greater in Atlanta too. So if you see some land in Atlanta, it's going to cost you maybe $300,000 in the city of Atlanta. But if you get the land for $300,000, you have the right builders, the right suppliers, the right connectors. You can build the house for $300,000, and then you can sell the house for $1.4 million.
What?
And you can make your money back. See, that's the point. That's why at this point in my career, I'm still selling, but like I said, I don't know how long, because I'm really loving the development side. You take a bigger risk, because what you're risking as a developer is, am I building a product that 5 months from now, when it's done, let's just say on average, really 6 months from now, when the property is done, are we going to be in a market where they're going to pay this purchase price I need them to pay in order for me to make my profit?
I started to ask questions first. Right. What started that was going through the psychiatric ward experience. Thankfully, I was.
And why were you in there?
Because I was going to commit suicide.
Why?
So as I was saying earlier, things compounding on top of each other. So I have trauma back from childhood, experiencing domestic violence, my parents divorcing, not explaining anything to me, going to school, getting picked on, then becoming a bully. I mean, there were so many things, as I said, over time, compounding on itself, going through breakups in a relationship, not ever getting counseling. All of these things just came to a head when I was maybe about 23 years old. And I just couldn't take it. I wrote a suicide note. I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I got in my car and I said, I'm gonna drive my car for $285. And I was just crying. And I got off on the exit. I can't even tell you what the exit was. I got off, there was a Kroger there. I sat in the Kroger parking lot and I cried. And I said, you know what? Something just said, drive to the hospital. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I drove to the hospital, told them how I was feeling. Baker acted me and I was sent to Peachford Psychiatric Ward here in Atlanta.
Give me all the things that were going on specifically that drove you to that point.
Feeling like I was alone was the biggest thing.
You just broke up with somebody at that point?
Well, me and my husband, we've been together for 15 years. And we had, we met in 12th grade. So we've gone through so much. I've hurt him, he's hurt me, never really understanding how to work through that. Not having my dad in my life. As a child, I was only able to see him 6 days a month, court order. As I say, experiencing domestic violence. I constantly try to suppress that through using drugs. I've used marijuana, of course. I use alcohol to suppress it. And eventually the suppressions wasn't working anymore.
But was it one particular day where it all kind of hit you and it drove you to that point? Or like did the thoughts just kind of creep in slowly?
So the whole reason why I moved to Atlanta was a cry out, but nobody realized it. I was like, I'm going to move to Atlanta and people are going to realize that they miss me. Well, moving to Atlanta further isolated me. I had no one. I was home by myself all the time. And then that allowed me to just sit and replay all the things that happened to me throughout life. And then, yes, one day I was like, I'm done. I'm tired of this. And it was too much. And I understand depression is a heavy thing because it feels like there's a looming dark cloud over you and nothing can lift it. It feels so heavy. And that day, the load was just too heavy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a letter. I wrote a letter. I left it on my dresser and I got in my car. And thankfully, I understand now it was a part of my mission to help other people that's going through that. But that day, I really thought that was going to be my last day. I really did.
You drive to a hospital. And once you start talking about suicide, they take you.
Yeah, they took me in.
Was that experience necessary for you in terms of you being there? Do you remember some points of being there that
I just remember feeling so numb. I was very numb. Even
they
when
they
told me, any regrets?
Did they give you drugs?
They didn't because I was pregnant at the time. I was pregnant at the time and I did not have to take any drugs. They gave me like prenatal vitamins and they gave me
you was
some
going to
things.
kill yourself and you was pregnant.
Yeah, I was. And going through that stressful experience, I ended up having a miscarriage because of all the cortisol levels. They told me, they didn't want to make me feel bad. Like, no, that had nothing to do with it. But knowing what I know now definitely had everything to do with it. But that's what really started the vegan journey because going through that experience and being in there, thankfully, I didn't have to get put on drugs. But going through that experience, I saw so many women that were on drugs and it didn't look pretty. So I said, in my mind, I was like, what is this? And that started me asking questions. So I spent 4 days there and I came home. I felt a little bit rehabilitated, but overall I started to ask questions and kept asking more questions. What
type of questions?
Why do you look like a zombie when you're on pharmaceuticals? That was one of the questions. Why isn't there adequate health care for women that are going through things? Why do I feel just like a number in this system, right? In that facility, granted, they did what they could, but I didn't feel like, my issues really mattered. I felt like a number, just like another patient. So I started to ask questions about that. I started to ask, what would happen if I was on pharmaceutical drugs? Would that change how I viewed the world? Would that change how I communicated? Because I saw those things happen to women in there. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. So at that point I said, okay, I know, I guess I kind of got scared straight because at that moment I knew that I didn't want to commit suicide anymore, but I still dealt with depression. I'm like, well, why didn't going there eradicate it? Yeah. What is it? And that's what led into veganism. And I didn't decide to go vegan. My husband's the one who said, we need to go vegan.
When do you go out on your own? Because the next step was you starting your own firm.
Yep.
How long were you there at the $300,000 spot.
Less than 6 months. And I know
Really?
that because they gave me a $60,000 signing bonus, and the signing bonus said, if you leave within 6 months, you got to pay it back. And I had to tell them I'm not going to pay it back because that was going to be my seed money. But also, I'm leaving because y'all don't respect me as a woman of color. And so it was a toxic environment for me. I interpreted the environment as one of toxicity, and I just could not stay there.
So they wowed you, they smoothed
Wowed
you.
you, told me you could work. Because environment one, I could work
there.
from home. I may have worked a lot, but I could work from wherever I needed to work from. The first firm was very much so like, we hire the best and we let them be the best. And the best gets their work done, but we don't care where you get it done from.
Yeah.
So the next firm, I'm like, yeah, I need to work from home. I'm snapping my fingers. Where's my assistant? What's going on? They're like, you don't have that. We don't have paralegals. I'm like, great, I'm working late. Where's the nighttime assistants? They're like, we don't have nighttime assistants. I'm like, where is my car service? They don't got, y'all ain't got none of my stuff.
It's wrapped into that $300,000 to give you, okay?
So they wanted me to, I'm like, Lord, let me get on Fiverr. I need this. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy. And at firm number one, because that was my first ever professional law job. So I thought that was normal for me. Like having nighttime staff, having late night car service, ordering whatever you want, them not checking if you order a $100 meal or a $200 meal. That was not the place at number two. Okay. And so I asked my paralegal to come in my office, and I got the partner walks in my office and's like, you know, you're making her feel insecure. You know, she has a law degree too. She's just working as a paralegal. And you know, the paralegal did not look chocolate, who had a problem with me having her come in my office. And I was like, oh, so they was like, maybe you could go to her office sometimes. Maybe you could do, I was like, oh, she went to law school, but didn't pass the bar and didn't get a degree and didn't work here as an associate. Oh, so don't that mean that she could come in this office? I don't play them games. So I told them, I started doing my digging, and I realized I was the third woman of color who'd worked there, who'd left within a year or shortly thereafter.
Got it.
And I asked them why. I was like, why am I the third woman of color that left within a year? And they didn't like that question. And then I had to have a meeting with HR, and then they didn't like what I had to say. I didn't like what they had to say. And then I left. No planning. I think I called my husband first, like, I'm about to leave. And then my husband was out of town at a work event. I called my best guy friend at the time, who was a writer, who that friend you call when it's like, bro, I got to get all my stuff out of here at night. Chris is out of town. Come get all my stuff. And we moved my stuff out overnight. And I just never went back.
Yo, first off, I just want to say, you're a terrible employee. You're just not built for it. Like, you're not a good employee. You know what I mean? Like, I would never hire you. This is crazy. To work for me? Oh, it's over. You just ain't got it in you. You know what I mean?
I didn't have it in me. I didn't have it in me. It wasn't meant to be.
But you raised some valid points. For one, you can, going through that experience is cool because you realize it's a lateral move. I make more over here, but am I really making more over here, right? But
and
obviously,
culture.
Yeah, for sure.
At my first firm, all of it, I could be myself. I could bring up whatever issues I had. No one cared. Everyone was very direct. Everyone was very like confident. Like everyone I worked with was confident, and they just were like, whatever. Like it wasn't a deal. If I felt like someone was being discriminatory, I brought it up at firm number one. They weren't like, you gotta leave or we don't want you here. They were just like, explain to us why you think that. And I would explain to them why. And it was a conversation. But it's different cultures. Like you have to find the culture for you. So I would always do my job, but nah, that whole like being not saying what's on your mind thing, it wasn't gonna work.
I bet.
That's dope.
That was a moment. And you feel like when you have these moments with your friends, like you really feel like, wow, this is really my friend.
Yeah.
Like we've had, like, of course, all of us are popular or whatever, you know a lot of people, but there's a difference between knowing people and people that like know you and people that are your friends.
Yeah.
And I feel like all of us, like I've had intimacy with you. I've had intimacy with you. I've had intimacy with you. And I think that's important. And that's what makes our friend group so special.
And you have to work on it and become the type of friend you're trying to attract. Like, well, all my friends, it's like, well,
what are you doing?
keep hanging out with them. You must be attracted to something in messy people, or you know, like there's something
you entertain the mess.
Yes, the more you grow in your spirituality and your mindset and your support and your growth, like you're going to attract people like that. You know,
what if you had to work on in terms of being a friend? Like, is this something that's just natural, or is it a conscious being a friend?
It's a conscious, intentional effort every single day.
Yeah.
It is per person. Like, I'll give you a prime example. Megan Ashley, everybody knows she's my best friend. Half of the Know For Sure podcast. She moved to Atlanta maybe 2 years ago. And I had the first 3 months, I hadn't seen her kids or anything. Like, I'm like, it's like, oh, my girl's in Atlanta. Da, 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 da. And we kind of got into our first, like, she was like, I've been in Atlanta for 3 months and you haven't seen my kids. I'm like, oh, girl, come by and see the kids when you want me to come see the kids. She's like, no, you're not hearing me. Like, that is an important part of my life. I'm like, dang, like, Jackie don't give a damn if I see her kids. And then once Jackie heard that conversation, she was like, actually, I would love for you to be in my kid's life. So it's like, each person is you relationship.
You need different things.
It's different.
Like, I'll give
certain people don't need.
Like, this is how you like have to pour into your wife.
Certain things.
Like, you have to do that with your friends.
Yeah.
This friend may like quality time. This friend may like gifts. This friend may like to go out to eat. And you have to know what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I just recently told Brie, I'm like, Brie, like, I'm a quality time person. I want to come over your house and just hang out.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to be going to an event.
She needed that, though.
Yeah.
Oh, first off, Ernestine need a call back, or she gonna put it on Instagram. She'll be like, I want y'all to know my friend ain't hit me back.
Not hit me back.
And David, I was gonna give you that example. I know that about Ernestine now because we've had those conversations. But me and B Simone, we don't have to talk.
I'm the opposite. I don't have to see nobody. I'll see you in a year and tell you my deepest, darkest secret.
Exactly. Like, we're the same when it comes. I think maybe that's the Aries thing too.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really need that much of it. So like, it's just like, so much time can pass by without us even picking up the phone. But once we get together, we'll go on a vacation together, or we'll go out to eat, and then it's like no time has passed. But with Ernestine, it's like, no, I need to talk to you now.
For sure.
I called you 20 minutes ago, and I still haven't got a call back. I'm going on Instagram to call you out.
So you cater it per person, and you take time and be intentional to learn each person. You know, like. Yeah,
this is crazy. I'm starting to reflect. I'm sure y'all are thinking like, dang, there's some people I need to call.
Yeah.
Am I being a friend?
Especially if they care about that. It's not about what you care about. Like I need words of affirmation. I need you to tell me you're doing great. Keep going. I need affirmation. Yeah. Other people like, girl, don't tell me nothing. Show me. You know?
So and see, I'm the opposite. Like you were just saying, y'all did great. And I'm like, don't just tell me I'm doing great. I need the criticism. Because I feel like you don't love me if you didn't pay enough to it to see what I could do better. So it's like, it's so different for each person. And like you said, it's not about, I was being the friend to everybody, the type of friend that I needed. But you got to be the friend that they need. So it is about how they receive love.
And I'm going to say this too. You kind of got to take accountability and self-reflect too. It's like, bitches ain't going to affirm you every day. You should know by now. Like, you're great. You know what I'm saying? So if your thing is quality time, you ain't going to always get the quality time. If your thing is gifts, you're not finna get a gift every Friday. I ain't your man now.
It's like small things, Dave. Like,
so
even
it's
like
both. You have to take accountability to not want so much from people and find certain things within yourself.
Because everybody dealing with their own stuff too. We all are dealing with so much behind the scenes. So we have to be mindful of that as well.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm cracking. Ernestine was like, me too.
I ain't on the verge, babe. Talk me off the ledge.
I never even thought about like this conversation. I never thought about how much work it takes to be a friend.
Ooh, it's work.
A true friend.
It's really work.
To be a true friend.
To be a true friend, it's really, really work.
And you do it when you care.
And I think we talked about this too, like, when you do have those people in your life that go the extra mile to show you I'm a friend, like, I think we should all really appreciate those people. Because everyone, my mom used to always say when I was growing up, you're lucky if you have one real friend in life. And I used to be like, oh, please, I have a bunch of friends. But then as you get older, you realize you're like, no, like having a real friend, they come few far in between.
It's crazy.
Someone who's invested in you, who wants to see you win, who supports you, who's there for you, who won't judge you, who's like interested in your life. It's like when I call you, I'm like, we get to business, but I'm also like, how's Dre and the kids? How's everybody in the family? Like I start with that first because it's not about just our transactional things. It's like, I want you to know that I'm invested in your life.
Veganism, is that a religion?
It seems like it sometimes.
I think somebody, maybe I was reading on the internet or something like that.
It's not a religion. It's not to my knowledge. It is not a recognized religion. But it seems like it because once you become a vegan, then you got the alkaline vegans who's telling you bad for eating broccoli and cauliflower. Then you got the regular vegans who's telling you, hey, you bad for being alkaline. Who you think you are following this? That doesn't really work. This is for the animals. Then you got raw vegans who's saying all of y'all is messed up. You need to be eating raw vegans. And then you have liquid raw vegans, and then you have breatharians. So
What? Hold on. First, okay, before we get into the elephant in the room, which that whole breatharian, like,
Yes.
you eat breath. I don't know if it's like you're just liquid vegan. What's that?
So liquid vegan means that you are raw, but all of your meals are liquid, right? So you either puree it or you blend all of your meals. You only drink.
You puree it. Okay.
Correct.
There are vegans that are raw, but they only eat it in juice form.
Correct.
Every day of their life.
Every day of your life. And I have not evolved to that level yet. I don't know if I'm ever going to be at that level, but there are people that are liquid raw vegans. And the notion behind that is because you want to conserve as much energy as possible. So when you eat whole foods, your body's going to break it down to a liquid to send the energy to the cells anyway. So why don't I just consume it as a liquid so I can help my body conserve energy?
That actually makes sense. Instead of eating 10 carrots, you just juice it.
Juice it or blend it, correct.
Okay, breatharian. How is that?
Living off of the breath of air. That is because we know that there are elements that are in the air that are needed for the body to survive. So you breathe in air. You can't do this anywhere. I wouldn't do that in Atlanta. I wouldn't do that in New York. You need to do that in Caribbean spaces where there's good quality air, when you can go around a lot of greenery, you can go in the mountains, you can go in the forest and then practice your breath work, and that would be your meal for the day. So when we went to PR, we
No,
did some.
no, I'm not, no.
It's real.
There's no way, okay? You can't just breathe and that be your meal.
Yeah, that's what they work on, because there's nutrient dense air, right? So
I'm sorry, I gotta Google it. No, keep going.
There's nutrient dense air, and that's why I say where there's a lot of pollution, you can't live that lifestyle. Right, because you have a lot of chemicals in the air as well. You have microplastics in the air, depending on where you live. But if you are in, Caribbean spaces, if you are in, South America, I went to PR and I actually met a breatharian. I met a breatharian in Miami as well, who lived in DR 6 months out of the year, and he practiced being a breatharian throughout those 6 months, and he lived purely on breath, and he didn't look malnutrition or anything. And I said, praises to you, brother. But I can't do that.
Breatharian, a person who believes that it is possible through meditation to reach a level of consciousness where one can obtain all sustenance from the air or sunlight.
Correct.
You met they lying.
I've met 2 breatharians through my life. So yeah, they definitely depend on sunlight for their vitamin D, for cholesterol, to release cholesterol, which is the fat that the body makes, the liver makes. So you get your fat source from that. But I personally, I can't do that. I'm not well versed in that one. So, but there are people that are there, right? I don't know if you've ever seen the diagram of a person through evolution, where they have the person with the plate versus the person who's only eating the sun, and you're supposed to be totally ascended just by living off sunlight and, as I said, the air around you. But I don't think I'm going to evolve to that in this lifetime.
Actually, now that I think about it, if we truly believe the mantra that it's like mind over matter, and that's like the ultimate manifestation level.
And that's exactly how they think.
Manifesting nutrients.
They talk different. They talk as a meditation. They're talking like, their words carry a vibration because they know everything is frequency. So it's a whole art. It really is an art. I've met 2, and they are, as I said, woo, goodness to you. But
wow.
I can say, me and my husband, I feel like we are the best business partners. So I talk about all my business with him. If you do business with me, my husband know what you said. I tell him everything. But one thing I can tell you for sure is what we're discussing is lowering our overhead, keeping our operations expenses low, so that way we can see more profits. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the hype of raising our operation expenses, right? I just got a new office space for Watson Realty Co. It was necessary.
Buy it or lease it?
I'm leasing it. It's in Buckhead. I'm leasing it now. But my plan is, I have a 3-year plan for the space, because I know I want to buy something. But where I want to buy it at, that's the problem. Everybody wants to buy commercial, but the prices are so high at the location. And it's a permanent decision. You have to decide where you want to be. So I'm leasing it. But even in that lease, you have to determine like what this market is going to look like. And am I going to have enough agents that are producing at the same level they're producing now to cover this expense? And so for me, I'm making smart decisions. I'm looking at the market. I'm watching companies. I read articles. I'm watching all these major real estate companies. EXP is completely virtual. They have no overhead. They have no brick and mortar, right? But they stay at the top of the list when it comes to profitability, when it comes to real estate. Look at other companies like Keller Williams. They laid off 40% of their mortgage workforce. Redfin laid off, I want to say about 15-20% of their workforce. And those are people they put in administrative roles to support agents, because what they're doing, everybody is taking a step back. And they're replacing this with technology. AI is coming to replace people. So what I decide when I'm looking at growing my businesses is I want to grow steady. I don't want to shoot up and grow, because you don't know what this market is going to look like. In real estate, to me, people will, there's a group of people that it don't matter how bad the market is. There is a group of people that will always purchase and sell real estate because they see no value in renting. So it doesn't matter what's going on. They're going to always purchase and sell, which is grateful to me. Those are the clients that I service.
Yeah.
So they already know the value of buying and selling real estate, which is another reason I stay in production. I'm in production now because I spoke to a couple.
When you say production, what do you mean?
I still sell real estate.
Gotcha.
I still sell. The reason I still sell real estate is if the moment that I stop selling real estate, then my income is dependent upon my agents closing deals. I'm not ready to depend on them yet, because I'm a 2-year-old company. Let me see what happens in 5 years.
Yeah.
So give me 3 more years, and then I can see myself processing out of production, because at that time, 3 years later, it's a 5-year-old business. Now I can really look at our P&Ls and I can really see the structure of the business. So that's what a lot of times, like I said, don't get caught up in the hype. A lot of you guys are moving too quickly and you're going to forget the core part of your business. And in my opinion, as this recession comes, and a recession to me is just people are recessing from spending overinflated money on these overinflated items, right? Gas is higher, food is higher, rents are higher, mortgages are higher because interest rates are higher, right? So don't get caught up in thinking you're going to always close 30 deals. You might close 15. You may close 15, and that's you being at the top of your game. So if you're at the top of your game and you're closing 15 deals, what are those newbies are closing? And they don't have the book of business.
You would take so let's say one of our students, Alicia Price, she started out with her story, which was she grew up in a single parent household, so single mom. And then when she grew up, she ended up becoming a single mom, and she successfully co-parented her son. And so she's like, I'm really good at this co-parenting thing. And in her professional job, she did mediation. So she's like, I'm really good at this. And so she knew other moms were struggling with this. And so she created her course on co-parenting. So she turned her story into this framework, made like $13K from her first launch, but taught it live. So it was
Hold on. So there's a course, Ramsey. So she taught a course on co-parenting.
Yes. You would teach a course on anything.
It made $13,000.
Yes. And that was just the first time that she launched it.
What'd you tell her? How did she do that? Like, where do you find the co-parents? Like, and then you got to find the people who want to admit that they're having a problem co-parenting. Like,
yes.
And if you're going to put together like this workshop for 6 weeks, where you find the people to come for 6 weeks?
Yeah. So for her, she found them in a couple places. One is organizations. So she actually, part of that 13K, 7K came from a nonprofit organization that worked with single moms. So she plugged in there. So she went on LinkedIn, she went, looked around and found these nonprofit organizations. And one in particular hired her to work with their single moms.
Wow.
Because they had the funding for it. And then the other places are like Facebook groups. There are so many Facebook groups for all these different communities, including single moms, co-parenting, parenting tip groups. So people are raising their hand like, I need help. I want parenting tips. So yeah, those are the places she found them.
And this is stuff you teach people, like how to get creative.
Absolutely.
Especially, because you don't need a large file. You didn't even say nothing about posting on the gram.
Exactly.
you didn't say nothing about going live on the gram.
Yeah.
Back to speaking of being a good friend, like David, I just called him. I was like, hey, we need some sponsorships for product placement. He literally just sent me the money that day. Like, didn't ask a whole bunch of questions. And he was like, he literally said, I'm doing this because I want to support you.
That comes with trust, though.
Yes.
You guys, I do want to stress that. Yes, you can support your friends, but you also have to trust them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't just be dishing money out and like, I gave you $100 last week. I give you $5,000 this week. Like, where is this going?
I don't even think it's trust. It's just
trust.
It's relationship.
But it's relationship too.
Yeah,
it's like,
you built the trust.
Like Dave, I literally called him and was like, hey, this is what we're doing. And he was like, I love you. I support you. Where do you want me to send it?
Dope.
Literally didn't ask no questions. I don't even know.
But
I don't even think he really cared if the shirt was in there or not.
Yeah.
No, but I think David
I didn't think about it until I saw the shirt in there. I was like, oh, they go $5,000.
real fast. No, I think it goes back to David also believing in your ability to execute.
Yeah.
Like if you know, like again, you got a friend that actually does everything that they say they're gonna do.
Yeah,
and I have no problem with if David called me, it's not even about whether I trust David with I don't care what you do with the money once I give it to you. I believe in what you say you're gonna do.
Yeah.
You know what I
that
mean?
relationship equity is something. You got to build it up.
I tell people all the time, relationship capital is more valuable than money. It is more valuable than anything.
Yeah.
I have been able to maneuver the way I've maneuvered just simply off relationships. It's phone calls. I can call people. It's like you have to have that, just like that. Going to the beginning of our conversation, pouring into people. Like you pour into people, it comes back to you.
Yeah.
It really does. Like relationship capital, man.
Just being a good person.
Relationship equity for sure, because through relationships breed resources.
Yeah.
Every
100%.
job opportunity, every career, major life changing came from somebody that I knew.
Yeah.
And somebody else putting me on or just looking out or knowing I was the right fit for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Everything you need is not just, it's coming from those people, those relationships that you build.
Build your village, man. Everyone listening to this, build your village is so important. Like it's everything.
And be mindful how you treat people.
I was just about to say that's what it boils down to, because they ain't calling EJ or Bree or B Simone if you're effed up, messed up person or Debbie Downer, no energy, or you don't treat people right. Like I've gotten a lot of opportunity. Yes, I'm talented. Yes, I work hard. Yes, I grind, but I feel like God has blessed me and people around me have blessed me a lot too, because I just have good relationships with people.
Yeah.
So some things I didn't have to audition for. Some things I did, it's just like, okay, she's great for this job. Call her up. I love her energy. I love her. I love whatever. That's a relationship.
And they know
thing.
what to
how you treat people.
You. Like I know what to expect when Ernestine shows
up. A couple times where Bree and B had to check me a little bit because I get snappy sometimes. Bree, it was a couple times on set.
Bree checked her on set.
It was one time on set where Bree was like,
I'm trying to learn my lines.
Bree was like, EJ, you could have been a little nicer the way you said that to the such and such department. I'm like, well, they need to make sure they're doing their job because
but again, because both of our names are on it, I'm like, I want them to remember how we made them. Like they will remember how I made them feel.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I know you might not have said, you wouldn't have said it nicer, but I would have. So because my name on it, I need them to know that we're not all coming at them like that. Right. I need you to go re-say that.
That's what he was doing.
So you're out of a job.
Out of a job.
So
my mindset was, I'm a sell this book, but that ain't gonna get me where I need to go. So I'm gonna get a job. I wrote this book, The Law School Hustle.
Before or after you got fired?
Before. I was writing it while at my job.
Gotcha. But you didn't finish it by the time you left.
I don't remember exactly. It was like very close. I think it was probably done by the time I left.
Gotcha.
It had probably just gotten finished by the time I left.
Okay.
And my original plan was I'm going to start this business with speaking and this book deal. I didn't want to call it a thing, but like it was a self-published book. It was kind of a thing. Like it was a book thing. It was not a book deal. It was a book thing, right? And I was just like, this $20 book is not going to get me there. And so I started speaking to colleges, but I would do bulk book sales. But even with that, it was like $1,000. So I'm like, look, babe, I'm just going to get one other firm job so that I can make a little bit of money. And then I prayed this prayer. It was the most dangerous prayer I prayed, but also the best prayer I prayed.
Dangerous.
It was a dangerous prayer. It was, God, I want a job that's custom made for me. And at the time I prayed this prayer, I had one offer and one potential offer from another firm. Literally, once I prayed that prayer, within 24 hours, I lost that job. And every other firm that I interviewed with after praying that prayer was like, we won't hire you, which didn't make sense with my experience. And they didn't know how, they didn't know that I was going to come in there and shake it up. I kept that under wraps. Law's kind of hush-hush about this stuff. They probably hate that I'm even telling this story. Right. But literally, I lost every other job. And I
when you say you lost the job, meaning you had the offers.
They hired me, gave me the offer letter, and were like, you're in. Your start date is Wednesday. You just got to go through your background check, go through all your conflicts check. And the firm called me and was like, hey, you didn't pass conflicts, which literally means I worked on a case at one of my previous firms that precludes me from working at this firm. Because it's a conflict. Like either one of my old clients is beefing with the client at the new firm or something like that. But it's rare. And normally there's ways to get around it. I've never even met another lawyer who had a conflicts issue. And so
that's why you're saying it's a dangerous player.
Because after I lost those jobs and I was crying and I was sad, I was like, I want a job custom made for me. And God was like, you're going to have to make it. And he was like, I guess he was looking through the Rolodex like, I ain't got nothing for sis down there.
I ain't got nothing for this girl,
I ain't sending you to stress nobody else out. I don't got a job for you, okay? You, good luck, my daughter. I have equipped you for this.
Hilarious.
So then I just got on the internet and my husband, like this was the period in our marriage where he was like, what is my wife doing? Because I saw some girl on Instagram and she was making live videos and selling these ebooks, but it looked like she was selling a lot of these ebooks. And I was like, oh, maybe I could do that. And my husband was like, I know good and well. You did not leave this job to start getting on Instagram and selling ebooks. And I would be on live. It'd be like 4 people there, David. Okay. And Chris, he said, he just said that's a stretch. Maybe 2 or 3. Give me 4, babe. And he would be like, those, and I'd be like, babe, look, they gave me a like. He'd be like, a like? He was like, them people are gassing you up and you're not gonna make any money. I was like, he was like, why don't you do law? Like, why don't you sell a trademark, sell a something? I was like, all right, I guess I could. I was like, it's all these trademark lawyers on the internet. I could sell some trademarks.
Believe it or not, this story is hilarious, but there's so many gems packed inside of this, right? Because you saw somebody doing something and you said, oh, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But that ain't you.
And that's what he said. He was like, you've always been corporate. You've always been a speaker. He was like, why don't you sell what you know? But I didn't have, we had $60,000, right? But I didn't know.
Oh, so when they gave you that $60,000 advance,
cash,
you just saved it.
Yeah, we pocketed that.
How long were you at the firm? Was it 6 months?
No. It was like 4 months, 4 to 5 months.
Gotcha. So you just never spent that $60,000.
Oh, we spent a little bit of it.
Okay.
But we spent a little bit of it, but we put a lot of money away in like our 401k and all that other stuff. So I was like, if all else fails, we have access to this amount of capital.
Well, right now I'm on a journey where I'm not eating sweets. Okay. I'm not eating dessert specifically. Like after every meal, I'll eat a dessert or I'll eat some chocolate or something. I've been off for maybe like 3 weeks or so. So I'm not eating dessert. I am, what else am I not doing? There's a couple things that I just cut out. Oh, pasta. I just stopped pasta. Okay. Because I am in love with pasta. Okay. I will leave my wife for some pasta. I'm just playing. But I love pasta. I eat pasta everywhere. Okay. So I'm not eating that, but I do crave pasta and I do crave sweets.
So then, like I was saying earlier, we want to look in your childhood and look for experiences where either you were dealing with issues around people pleasing, where you had high stress moments.
How does that have anything to do with people pleasing? You gotta explain that to me.
Right. So remember I was talking about eating certain foods. You have learned how to use them to suppress emotions. So when we think about like the holidays coming up, right? Everybody's coming to this party with all their emotional wounds. Right. And they're eating all this unhealthy food, which makes them feel good. And then the aura of the holiday event is love. Right. So now you have come with your emotional wounds and you suppress them with food surrounded by love. So now the brain is an image associating organ. So when you deal with emotionally traumatic events, when I say traumatic, that means anything that's stressful. People think trauma is just like fighting and things like that. Any stressful event can cause emotional trauma if you don't know how to navigate that scale in that environment. So we have all these people with their emotional traumas coming to an event where there's unhealthy food surrounded by love. The brain is an image associating organ. So now your brain knows you have this emotional trauma and associates the love that you feel with these foods. Wow. So now you have associated love, happiness, the dopamine response with that trauma, but that food takes care of it.
For a minute.
And And ultimately that leads to health problems. So when we come to people and they're like, hey, go vegan. Oh, I can't do that. I can't let go of my chicken. I can't let go of this. It's because it tastes good, but also on a deeper level, it's because of how that food makes them feel. Maybe that's something that their great grandma started them on, every Sunday they ate that. So that chicken represents their great grandma and that feeling that great grandma gave them. So every time they bite that chicken, they might not think about their great grandma, but they get that comforting feeling. Right.
Got it.
Certain emotions, when I go to my holiday dinners with my family, I look at everybody's plate. And without my mom, my auntie, my grandma, even myself voicing or articulating my problems, I can see on your plate what you're dealing with. Right. So sweets.
That's crazy.
Right. So like sweets is usually depression, low self-esteem, issues around self-worth. And that can be broken down into different things. Maybe you were bullied as a child. Maybe you didn't get the praises from your parents that you wanted, right? So what does that do? Over time, that could lead to you being inconsistent, right? But I'll have to go deeper into the profile. But the top layer of it is low self-worth, low self-esteem, depression for sweets, for the pastas, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And it always starts in childhood. And
I never looked at it like that.
Oh yeah. A lot of people say that when they
Do you have like a book or something that you wrote that goes like deeper into that specifically, like the association of something? In your course, it
week number 1, that's all we deal with in the course, because before the idea of the course is you being able to remedy any health issues. I don't want you to depend on me to do it. I want to teach you how to do it for yourself. And that's week number 4. But to get you to that point, to say, okay, I'm going to be consistent with remedying my health issues, we got to first deal with the cravings. Because getting on a plan, like you said, it's not easy. It's not easy to remedy cancer, but I have people in my community that has done it.
Yeah.
And I don't like to say, I didn't do it. By the way, I didn't do it. I want to make sure that's known. I didn't do it. They did it for themselves, and they have the passion to heal themselves, so they've been able to do it. Diabetes, high blood pressure, all of these things can be remedied depending on, and it can be regulated with food. Can be regulated with food, but people never make it to that level because they're fighting sweets. They're fighting sugar. Sugar is very addictive. It's 1 molecule away from crack cocaine. So it's very similar in its chemical structure. It's not the same thing, but it's very similar in its chemical structure. So people are highly addicted to it. I'm addicted to it as well. But I understand when I'm eating that pie, I have to create a negative relationship with it. Right? So we eat it and we create a good relationship with it. Ooh, it makes me feel so good. It tastes so good. Ooh, grandma, you put your foot in this. No, you need to create a negative relationship with it. This is killing me. This is causing oxidation of my cells. This is causing cellular death, which leads to dehydration of the cells, which leads to inflammation in the joints. Right? So I'm saying these things as I eat it. Over time, that helps you to create a negative bond to the food, and you can detach from it. You can do that. You can apply that to everything, to food, to people, to environments. You'll be able to detach from it easier.
Let me tell you what's happening here. And I get it so much. And I have tested our market, and I keep testing it and testing it. It doesn't matter how much real estate I sell. If there is no social proof of me being involved in the real estate industry, I might as well take real estate out of my bio and just put influencer. And I think that we all want that, because sometimes I'm like, dang, like I feel like all I'm doing is talking about real estate. Even when you reach out to me, I say, but at the end of the day, is that who I am? Yes. And do I talk about real estate all the time? Yes. So my fabulousness is who I am. That's part of me too. But if I'm using my social media page to help people understand real estate, to acquire clients, then I need to be showing what I'm doing, right? Yeah. And I think that a lot of us may just need to get a separate page. It's all about real estate, and maybe use that. Because I can say that there are some people, especially of other races, and I don't think it's a racial thing, but when I was in Vegas, right? So I go to this huge event. It's called Inman Connect, Luxury Connect. And I'm in the room with people that are selling $30 million deals, not a year, a deal, right? It's Luxury Real Estate Connect, right? And you go to their pages and they're white people, and all you see is them hanging out with their dog, hanging out with their pals. They're not doing as much marketing as we're doing, but they are listing and selling $30 million houses. But for us as Black people, and this is how I truly feel, we are still in this phase of life where we have to prove it. We have to show it and prove it, because if you walked up to someone and said, I made $1 million last year, there's a whole thing, you lying. Ain't no way. People you know why? Because we're not used to seeing it. So what I recognize in not getting caught up in the hype is, let me just share more. I do real estate every day. Let me just share it because I want that representation needs to be important so you can stop not believing that we're doing what we say we're really doing. Yeah. So let me just post these deals. And there are some closings that I can't post, but my name is in the room. Like Dave, you can't walk in the room. They're not going to say Kiana doesn't know what she's doing in real estate. They're going to say, oh, she a goat. She helped me buy and sell my house. And we're in circles where people, you may know I work with them because they told you, but you're not going to see the post, right?
Did you ever feel that you had to work a little harder to get respected based on how you present yourself and just pretty and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I think that even now my style is completely different. What I recognize is I'm recognized as Kiana Watson, the real estate professional, whether I am actually in the selling real estate mode or not. And so me and my husband was laughing because we were looking at some old pictures 10 years ago. And I remember when he said something to me one time, I put on these shorts and he said something to me. He ain't like it. But at that time, you know, when they love you, they don't want you to wear certain things. And he ain't like it. And we and him got into an argument. This was 10 years ago. We got in an argument. I can wear what I want. But now when I actually leave out the house, I like to be stylish. Being stylish is one thing, but I don't lead with everything don't have to be tight. Everything doesn't have to be a certain way. And that's just because I recognize no matter where I am, I'm still a representation of a Black woman in real estate. And there's a specific look that society has kind of deemed that we should have. And it's going to take some years to unlearn that behavior. And I'm certainly not trying to be the pioneer to take you completely out the box, but I do push the envelope a little bit to show. But guess what? Yeah, I was at this party last night and we had a great time. And here we are today, just closed on 3 houses. Hi, y'all. You know what I mean? And you have to do that. And it helps people to unlearn, like, okay, this person can have a life and can be a little bit sexy, but still share, you know, who they are. So I try to defend the agents as much as possible because I do feel like we're put in a box, especially Black agents.
I don't understand. I was listening to Gary Vee.
Love Gary Vee.
Gary Vee said, y'all need to stop buying houses. Y'all need to just rent.
I feel like
I'm trying to understand where that's coming from.
I think he says that from, a lot of people say it from a place of ignorance. And I always say this, I'm not going to compare myself to a Gary Vee or even a Grant Cardone, right? Because I ain't got $1 billion.
Right.
They have $1 billion. So why are you speaking to them? You got 100,000. You need to be listening to your 100,000-aire people. I think that I'm not about to take life advice from someone that's living on a level that I'm not at. So right now you're giving me advice from a billionaire status, but I'm pretty sure you own your property. Right. So why are you telling me not to own something? Do you understand why he's saying it? Because I still don't understand. Because he's probably shocked because he's shopping he's coming from a different space. I'm Gary Vee. My family been had money. We own multiple properties throughout the United States. But right now I'm looking at the interest rates, they're higher. The prices are higher. I'm gonna tell these buyers, they just need to rent. The comparison to that, rents are higher than mortgages right now. Rents are high, but they need to rent. You don't need any responsibility because we don't know what's gonna happen in the market. So they're coming from a place of this market is shifting so much, don't just rent. Because eventually you're going to be able to buy something because they're betting on the real estate industry plummeting. They're thinking that's going to happen, but there are no numbers to support that.
But this is like 3 years ago where I think his message wasn't like, don't buy right now. I think he's saying buying a house as a young entrepreneur is a bad idea. That's what he's saying. And I don't get that. That doesn't even make sense to me.
The only reason it makes sense, and I'm gonna tell you because I'm a home ownership advocate, but I have my client, and she's like a huge example. She bought a house using down payment assistance from me 6 years ago. So she got the house basically. She only had to put $1,000 down. So she on the internet. She following you. She following Neo. She followed everybody. She ended up taking some class with Neo about event spaces. So she called me, Kiana. This was 2 years ago, Kiana. I want to sell my house. How much money can I make? I said, you can make 100,000. I look at the numbers, you can make 100,000. All she did was buy it with $1,000 out of pocket, lived there with her family. And she said, I got a plan. I said, what's your plan? She said, my plan is to open an event space. She is a mobile notary now. I want to open an event space because she used to work for the airport. And, entrepreneurship definitely gives her some more compensation. Sure. Yeah. And she was like, I'm going to open up my own business. She said, do you think it's smart for me to open up this business? This is my projection. And I got my mobile notary, and she started wholesaling.
Word.
And she said, I'm gonna do this for a year and I'm gonna come back and buy. I said, if you got a plan for this $100,000 to build a business, to bring in an income, sell the house. We sold her house. She opened the event space. It's in Snellville. I know exactly where it is. She does her mobile notary. I have her number, and she's making money, but she keeps in touch with me. Shout out to Jewel. Jewel was like, and when I even out, I'm going to come back and buy another house. I think that he's talking to people like that. She didn't take the $100,000 and go to Chanel. She didn't take the $100,000 and go to the mall. She invested in another business. And I think that from Gary Vee's standpoint is, if you can get if you have a bulk of money and you want to be an entrepreneur, let me just start there.
Yeah, for sure.
Invest it into a business first. I think then that and even me advocating home ownership, I advocate for investing in businesses just as much. 100%. But if you are just working your 9 to 5 and you have no other plans, and did you just see how the girl stayed there for 6 years and made $100,000? You could have stayed there for 6 years and said, I want to pull this money out, and did a home equity line of credit and pulled out $80,000 and kept $20,000 inside your equity, and still would have been to the good some additional money. That is the power of home ownership. So I still believe in it, but I also believe in business ownership as well. So I think that his mindset was, because there's a lot of people now, they don't want to work.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. So you have some money to invest in being an entrepreneur. Go for it.
Yeah.